I bought my father-in-law a $10,000 wheelchair after his surgery. He looked me straight in the face and said, "Return it. I'd rather crawl than be indebted to a whore." And everyone at the table laughed. You ever had a moment where the room just froze around you? Like time didn't stop, but your belief in people did? Tell me where you're watching from and what time at Island I want to know. I'm not alone in this. My name is Riley Evans. I'm 34, and until recently I was married into the Harding family, a picture-perfect clan from Old Greenwich, Connecticut. You know the type. Polished silverware. Legacy lawyers, mahogany, everything. And the unspoken rule, outsiders stay outsiders. I met Matthew Harding in Boston, where I work in corporate finance. I was juggling 2 jobs, finishing grad school, barely making rent. He was a junior associate at a well-known law firm, handsome, clean-cut, with that private prep school energy that makes you think he grew up with brunch reservations instead of breakfast. We met at a networking mixer. He liked that I was blunt-driven. I liked that he seemed kind. Seemed. The Hardings weren't what you'd call welcoming. They were politely indifferent. Walter, my father-in-law, is the kind of man who commands a room without saying a word. People shrink around him not because he yells he never has to, but because his silence feels like a verdict. Cold. Final. His wife Claudia is all pearls and passive aggression. She calls people sweetheart the way other people say move. And Matthew, he always said, I was imagining it, that they were just set in their ways. I should have known better. They didn't hate me. That would have been easier. They tolerated me. I was the organized one, the fixer, the woman who kept track of dinner reservations, tax folders, insurance claims flights. I was useful. And for a while, I convinced myself that was love. Matthew and I had our own place in Boston, a 1-bedroom condo I bought before we got married. I paid most of the mortgage. He handled the groceries. That was our rhythm. I never complained. I didn't need him to be rich. I needed him to have my back. He didn't. Walter had hip surgery last year. Complications. Rehab was slow. Claudia said she was too emotionally drained to manage his recovery. Matthew was busy at the firm. His younger brother, Troy, barely called. So I did what I always did. I stepped up. I hired a private nurse, arranged for a rotating physical therapist. I stocked their fridge, tracked prescriptions, even dealt with their horrible insurance rep. I used my vacation days to drive up there, stay overnight sometimes, and I never asked for anything in return. I just thought, maybe, just maybe, they'd see me as part of the family. The wheelchair was the last piece. Walter couldn't move around without straining his spine. The one from the hospital was junk, no support, clunky, loud. His doctor said he needed something ergonomic electric with proper pressure relief. Insurance wouldn't cover it. So I researched. For weeks. I called manufacturers, read every review, visited showrooms in my spare time. I found the perfect one: sleek, lightweight, cushioned memory foam joystick steering. It was on sale for $9,675 before tax. Final price, just over 10 grand. I paid for it myself. What Matthew didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I'd been quietly setting that money aside for IVF. We'd talked about trying. Someday, but I was the planner. I like being prepared. I'd done blood work consultations, even scoped out clinics, just in case. That night we had our monthly dinner at the Harding house. The plan was to surprise them with the chair. I remember rolling it through the front door, carefully avoiding the antique rugs Claudia loves. She raised an eyebrow. Matthew said, "Is that the one you picked?" I nodded. "It's a gift," I said. "It'll help him get around easier." Walter stared at it. 5 full seconds of silence. Then he looked at me, expression blank, voice low, and said, "Return it. I'd rather crawl than be indebted to a whore." He said it slow, clear, like a line from a script he'd rehearsed. And everyone heard it. Claudia let out a soft laugh like I'd spilled water on the table. Troy chuckled, muttered, "Damn, Dad." Matthew, he looked down at his plate, smirked. And I stood there frozen, face burning. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. I just went to the kitchen and started clearing the plates. One by one, like nothing had happened. I heard Claudia whisper. She's sensitive to no one in particular. Matthew didn't correct her. He never did. When I finished, I wheeled the chair outside, folded it gently, and slid it into my trunk. I closed the front door behind me. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't slam it either. I didn't go home that night. I booked a hotel 2 towns over, used my emergency credit card. I lay on the bed fully dressed, staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. That was the moment it all clicked. The moment I stopped hoping they'd respect me, if I just did more, gave more, stayed quiet longer. They didn't want me in the family. They just wanted what I could give. The next morning, I didn't rush back to Boston. I turned off my phone, ordered coffee to the room, and stared out the window like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. That chair, it was supposed to be a gesture of care, of unity. It turned into a punchline, a public execution of my worth. And Matthew, my husband, watched it happen. Without lifting a finger. I thought maybe he'd call, apologize, say he was in shock, that he didn't know what to say. He didn't. Not that day, not the next one either. Instead, I got a text 2 days later. Just 7 words, "You left the roast pan in the trunk." I stared at that message for a full minute. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Let's talk." Just a reminder that I forgot his mother's antique pan. Because that was the priority. That was when I realized Matthew wasn't confused. He wasn't conflicted. He was comfortable. Comfortable, letting me be the adult, the cleaner, the fixer. The woman who handled messes he didn't want to admit were his. And I had been playing along. That morning, I logged into our shared accounts. Checking balances had always been my job. I paid our bills, did our taxes, handled insurance disputes. Matthew didn't know the password to our mortgage portal. When we bought the condo, it was my inheritance that funded the down payment, $85,000 from my grandfather. I never added Matthew to the deed. He never asked. I didn't hide it. He just didn't care. I checked the savings account. There was $48,000 in it. $44,000 came from me over the last 5 years. Paychecks, bonuses, freelance contracts I did on the side. His contribution less than $4,000. So I moved it. All of it. Into a solo account under my name. Have you ever realized you've been funding your own mistreatment, that you were paying literally to be disrespected? I didn't do it out of anger. I did it out of clarity. Next, I checked the Ring camera access for Walter's house. I had helped them install it during recovery, set up the zones, the app, the notifications. They never revoked my login. I opened the feed. It was the middle of the day. Walter stood on the porch, a mug in hand. Claudia brought him coffee. Matthew was there too, still in the same clothes from the dinner. They talked casually like nothing had happened. I turned up the volume. "He's probably sulking," Matthew said. Claudia replied, "She's always been high-strung." Then Walter shouted from inside the house, "Good riddance." It didn't even sting. Not anymore. It just confirmed things. I went home, packed 3 bags, the essentials, left the house key on the counter, and I drove straight to a lawyer's office. Angela Russo came recommended through a friend. Tough, sharp, terrifying in a silk blouse. I told her everything, from the wheelchair to the accounts to the condo title. She listened, took notes, asked smart questions. And then she said something that stuck with me. "You don't need a war, you just need leverage. And from the looks of it, you've got it." So we filed. Divorce papers, quietly, strategically. We placed a temporary freeze on the mortgage account so Matthew couldn't refinance the condo or touch the equity. We prepped a list of all my documented financial contributions with receipts, screenshots, bank statements, spreadsheets, years of records. He had none. 2 days after I served the papers, I got the call. It was Matthew. "You're serious," he said, stunned. Over a chair. I didn't answer, because it was never about the chair, and he knew that. I moved into a short-term rental in Cambridge. Sparse, clean, quiet. No framed wedding photos. No in-laws breathing down my neck. Just space. For the first time in years, I wasn't on a group text with Claudia asking what time Thanksgiving dinner would start. I wasn't forwarding medical bills to Walter. I wasn't patching the holes in a family who resented me for having boundaries. And yet, I wasn't done. You see, Walter had once given me access to his business records, years ago when he got audited lightly and panicked. Said I was good at organizing, so I ended up doing what I always did, helping. I sorted receipts, scanned invoices, balanced ledgers, for free. I saved copies, not for revenge. Not at first. I just didn't like disorganization. But now they were assets. I pulled out the old USB from my filing box, plugged it in, and started reviewing everything. Unreported income, under the table vendor payments, sketchy deductions, dozens of files with Walter's signature on them. I didn't send them anywhere. Not yet. I just made copies. And waited. Because I had a feeling this story wasn't finished. A week passed. No calls, no texts, no apology. Just silence. And then, out of nowhere, I got a message from Matthew. Can we talk? I didn't respond. I figured maybe he finally understood. Maybe the weight of what happened was sinking in, but deep down I knew better. He wasn't sorry. He was calculating. Later that evening, my phone buzzed again. Another message from him. You're destroying lives over a joke. A joke. That's what he called it. The insult, the laughter, the silence, my humiliation, all of it reduced to a joke. Like I was the uptight one who just couldn't take it. So I replied with a single line, You destroyed a marriage over silence. Then I blocked his number. 2 nights later, I received an email alert from my old Ring account. It was connected to the Harding House camera's access they'd forgotten to remove. The footage had triggered motion at 2:46 a.m. I opened it. There in grainy, black and white, was a figure, dragging something across the patio. Zoomed in, it was the wheelchair, the same one I'd taken back, the one they mocked. Now muddy, scratched wheels caked in something I couldn't identify. It was sitting in the middle of their living room, facing Walter's recliner. No broken windows, no triggered alarm, no signs of forced entry. Just that silent electric presence. A gift returned. I watched the footage again, rewound, studied the shadows. The person moved like they knew the space, knew where the blind spots were, how long the motion delay was. And then I smiled. Because I had been in that house dozens of times. I knew the back door lock didn't latch unless you lifted it twice. I knew the alarm delay had a full 15 seconds before the beep started. I had installed the Ring cam, set the zones. I didn't say anything to anyone. But the next morning I got a call from Matthew. His voice was tight, breathy, panicked. Our house, it got broken into. Nothing's missing, but the chair it was in the living room, like someone brought it back. He sounded scared. I asked, is everyone okay? He said yes, just shaken. What I didn't say, what I wouldn't say, was that I'd been watching. I'd seen Claudia's face on the porch cam when she found the chair. Pale, shaking. I'd seen Walter yelling, seen Troy pacing. I didn't need to break in. I didn't need to vandalize anything. I just returned what was mine, what they rejected. After that call, the quiet turned into something darker. Matthew started spiraling. He revoked my access to our Spotify family plan, changed the Netflix password, canceled my login for the food delivery apps we both used. Petty moves, like he was trying to claw back, control one click at a time. Then one night, I stepped out of work to find him standing by my car. Arms crossed, eyes narrow. You're just going to keep playing games, he asked. I didn't respond. He followed me as I walked, his voice low and bitter. You humiliated my father. He's traumatized. My mom can't sleep. Troy thinks someone hexed the house. What is this Riley A. scare tactic? I stopped and turned to him. You let your father call me a whore in front of everyone, I said. And you laughed. He had no response, just stood there silent, exposed. I got in my car and drove off. That night Troy called. Drunk, slurring. He said he always liked me better. Said I should have married someone with a spine. Then he let something slip. Matthew's been off. Weird. Disappears some nights. Comes back sweaty, paranoid. Keeps checking the cameras. Keeps asking if I think you're coming back. I didn't answer. I just let him ramble. The next morning, another letter arrived. This time from the IRS. Not to me, to them. The audit had begun. It started slow. Just a letter about discrepancies in Walter's filings. But I knew what was coming. I had sent just enough through a third party to light the match. Matthew tried to blame me, said I messed up the paperwork years ago. But I had never signed anything. Never filed. Never submitted. I was a glorified assistant, not legally accountable. I had just been good at organizing. Now, that skill was destroying them. Claudia called me once. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemails. Long, rambling, angry, then shaky, pleading. She said Walter was having chest pains, that the stress was making him worse, that the IRS was now asking about a second business he'd kept hidden from even her. Still, she didn't apologize. She said, "You're tearing this family apart." Not I'm sorry for what he said. Not I should have spoken up. Not we were wrong. Just, please, stop. That told me everything I needed to know. When someone begs for peace, but never offers an apology, it's not remorse, it's fear, and fear is louder than guilt. After Claudia's voicemail, I waited. 2 days, then 4. Silence again. But it wasn't peace, it was strategy. I could feel them calculating, whispering behind closed doors, checking mailboxes, email folders, tax filings, old receipts, looking for what I had and what they'd forgotten. And then something strange happened. I got a notification from an old iCloud account I hadn't touched in over a year. It was still connected to the shared MacBook back at the condo. Matthew must have forgotten to wipe it. A file popped up. Prenup. Options. March. Draft. PDF. It wasn't ours. I opened it anyway. It was a draft for Troy and his fiancée, Samantha. Apparently Matthew had helped them draft up a prenup with a lawyer friend. The doc was full of boilerplate clauses, separation of assets, family business protections, non-disclosure. But buried in the fine print, I saw it. A reference to something called the Harding Legacy Trust. My chest tightened. It was short, just a line. All rights and entitlements to the Harding Legacy Trust established under Victor Harding's name shall remain protected and independent of marital claims. I read it twice. Victor had set up a family trust, not just one of those passed down the house arrangements, a multi-million-dollar vehicle, untaxed, undocumented, unmentioned in any of the filings I'd helped organize. And Matthew knew about it. So did Troy. So did Claudia. But they never told me. Not once. Even when I handled their ledgers, managed their receipts, cleaned up years of sloppy accounting, they hid it, deliberately. That's when the timeline started to click. What if this wasn't just about the chair? What if it was about control? What if they saw my name starting to appear on too many documents, too many keys, too many accounts? What if they realized I was slowly building a future, maybe with or without Matthew, and that scared them? That dinner, the insult, the laughter, it wasn't random. It was a warning. That night, I sat on my couch and stared at my laptop screen. The PDF was still open. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady. I clicked Save As and dropped it into a folder labeled Harding, Assets on an Encrypted Drive. Then I added everything else. The USB of scanned documents from Victor's office, bank statements, screenshots of emails, files from QuickBooks I had access to, discrepancies between cash receipts and bank deposits, invoices with Walter's signature but no matching tax records. Some of them were nearly a decade old, and one of them buried in a folder labeled 2013. Reclassified showed a series of deposits into an offshore account with transfers later made in Troy and Matthew's names. Tiny amounts, a few thousand here and there, but enough to establish connection, enough to look like laundering. I didn't send it anywhere. Yet. Instead, I made 2 hard copies. One I gave to Angela, my lawyer. The other I mailed anonymously to Samantha. No note, no warning, just a flash drive labeled, "Ask before you sign." We'd only met twice at a fundraiser and a family brunch. But I remembered her, bright, analytical, the type of woman who reads every word in a contract 3 times before touching a pen. If anyone deserved the truth, before being dragged into this nightmare, it was her. 2 days later, Troy texted me. "Why would you do that?" That was all he wrote. No denial, no shock, no anger. Just that question. He already knew what I sent. He already knew what it meant. I didn't reply. The silence said enough. 3 days after that, I got another voicemail from Claudia. Her voice cracked this time. She said they were meeting with a second lawyer, said they were trying to restructure the trust, said Samantha was threatening to walk if she wasn't given full transparency. Then near the end, Claudia said something that chilled me. This isn't just going to affect the boys. This affects the grandkids. I froze. Grandkids. She didn't know. No one knew. Matthew didn't even know. But I had been saving for IVF. Quietly. The receipts, the clinic emails, the appointments, all of it hidden in a shared Gmail account that we'd both stopped using. Or so I thought. I dug through the archive. There it was. An appointment reminder from the fertility clinic sent 6 months ago. It had gone to our old joint inbox, the one I forgot to close, the one Matthew still had access to. So now I had to wonder, did they know I was preparing for a child? Did they see that email and decide I was a threat? That I might be entitled to part of the trust someday, not just as a daughter-in-law, but as the mother of a Harding heir? And if they did, was the dinner insult really spontaneous? Or was it a message, one meant to break me, push me out, before I became part of the bloodline, before I became permanent? They weren't trying to protect themselves from me. They were trying to protect their legacy from what I might create without their permission. 3 days later, a lawyer reached out to Angela. She didn't give a firm name, just said she represented an interested party within the Harding family. She wanted to discuss a private resolution. No court, no public filings, no IRS involvement if possible. Angela asked for clarification. The woman said something about an exposed trust vehicle that may have been unintentionally referenced during prenup negotiations. Unintentionally. That word made me laugh out loud in Angela's office. They knew. They knew exactly what I'd seen, what I had, what I could do. And now they wanted to pay me off. She floated a number low 6 figures. Enough to be insulting, not enough to silence. Angela looked at me across the table, eyebrows raised. I shook my head. We didn't reply. Instead, that night, I made a copy of everything I had again. But this time I didn't send it to a lawyer, or to the IRS, or to any official channel. I mailed it to someone who had more to lose than I did. Samantha. I added a new file to the flash drive, one she hadn't seen before. A QuickBooks summary showing 10 years of underreported income, all funneling into accounts, tied to Walter's signature and cross-referenced by names that matched the prenup clauses Matthew had written himself. In other words, Matthew had helped Troy protect stolen money. I mailed it with no note. Just a label. Truth before trust. 2 days after she received it, Troy messaged me. What the hell did you send her? Again, no denial, no threats. Just panic. I didn't respond. But I knew. I knew she had opened the files, that she had asked questions, that she had understood. Because the next day, Troy's social media went dark. Their wedding website offline. Samantha gone, quietly. No public post, no rage, just silence. The kind that follows after someone finally sees a wolf with its mask off. Claudia left 2 voicemails that week. One angry, accusing me of vengeance. The second one was broken. She said Walter had collapsed the night before. Not a heart attack, just stress. Said his blood pressure was out of control. That the family accountant was calling in a panic. That the IRS had requested a full 20-year audit. She said they were bringing in a second attorney to restructure what's left. Then she said something that caught me off guard. This isn't just going to destroy the boys. It's going to destroy the grandkids. I sat there listening, unmoving. Because now I knew. They had seen that email. The one from the fertility clinic. The one Matthew must have opened before the dinner. They knew I was planning a child. They knew, and they tried to cut me out before it was too late. Everything, the chair, the insult, the laughter, wasn't about disrespect. It was about fear. The fear that I was becoming entitled, that I might bring a new generation into their line with a legal claim to everything they had spent decades hiding. Then came the break-in. It happened on a Thursday. Someone tried to force my apartment door open with a screwdriver, left muddy prints on the mat, scratched the deadbolt. They didn't get in. The frame was reinforced. But the motion camera caught it all. Eamon in a hoodie gloved, face hidden. But his walk, I recognized that. The way he kicked at the welcome mat, a nervous little flick of the toe. Matthew always did that, every time he came home. I didn't call the cops. I uploaded the footage, sent it to Angela, just in case. Then I called Troy. He picked up on the first ring. Sounded like he'd been expecting me. I asked one question. Has Matthew been drinking, acting unstable? Troy sighed. Yeah, he said. He's been disappearing at night. Comes home sweaty, paranoid. Keeps checking the cameras. Keeps talking about how you're going to ruin him. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That night I sent one final package. No flash drives this time. Just 3 items, all carefully chosen. A printed photo still frame from the night the wheelchair returned, grainy time-stamped from their own ring cam. The original warranty for the $10,000 chair in my name. An itemized invoice with the exact cost, taxes, and a handwritten note on the bottom that said, "You didn't want the gift, but you'll remember the price." The next morning, Walter called. His voice was hoarse, strained. He didn't yell, didn't insult, didn't even try to manipulate. He just asked, "What do you want?" I didn't answer, because it wasn't about what I wanted anymore. It was about what they feared. It was about the truth they couldn't unsee. And the fact that I had become the one person they couldn't predict. Not angry, not hysterical, not even loud, just precise. And very, very quiet. They thought I'd throw a tantrum. Instead, I built a case. While they screamed at shadows, I handed their secrets to people who couldn't ignore them anymore. After that call from Walter, everything went still. No more texts, no more emails, no more surprise appearances outside my work. The cameras at the Harding house went offline. The Ring account I'd once helped set up deleted. The family accountant stopped responding to messages. Even Troy's LinkedIn vanished overnight. At first I thought they'd gone underground, but no, they had gone under. 2 weeks after Walter strained, "What do you want?" questioned the IRS expanded their case. What began as a flag on 5 years of underreported income exploded into a full-blown investigation into nearly 2 decades of tax fraud, offshore evasion, and false shell companies. They subpoenaed old ledgers, vendor contracts, and payment logs, some of which had my handwriting on sticky notes, unverified missing receipts, no match. But none of them had my signature. Angela made sure of that. And then came the indictments. Victor Harding, known in the tri-state import-export world as a legacy businessman, was formally charged with federal tax evasion, fraudulent filings, obstruction, and conspiracy to mislead the IRS. He took a play deal, of course. He was old, sickly, well-connected. No jail time, but the trust gone. Seized, liquidated, properties tied to it sold, vehicles confiscated, business licenses revoked. Walter now lives in a 1-bedroom walk-up in New Haven, no elevator, no nurse, no chair. Just stairs. Matthew didn't get off so easy. His name showed up in QuickBooks, logs editing entries weeks after I left. He deleted bank records, adjusted timestamps, backdated contracts, and the digital forensics team at the IRS, they noticed. His actions post-audit notice moved the investigation from neglect to intent. That made it criminal. His law license was suspended pending review, then revoked. He was charged with tampering, aiding in concealment, and financial obstruction of justice. Angela and I sat in silence when the verdict came in. Probation. Felony record. No prison, but his career, dead. He tried applying at a warehouse 6 weeks later. Didn't pass the background check. He emailed me once. "I never thought you'd go this far." I didn't respond. Because I hadn't. They had. Claudia. She didn't far better. She had what the family whispered was a collapse. Not medical. Emotional. She stopped answering friends. Moved in with her sister 3 states away. I haven't heard from her since. No apology. No letter. No acknowledgement that the woman she used to call high-strung was the one holding back the flood for years. And Troy, he went quiet. His name doesn't come up anymore. No posts, no appearances. I like to think Samantha moved on. Quietly, elegantly, intelligently, like I did. As for me, no, I didn't get away clean. I lost time, years of it. Years spent hoping a cold family would someday warm to me. Years of biting my tongue, dressing a little quieter, speaking a little softer, smiling through backhanded compliments, and silence at dinner tables. I lost money. Tens of thousands on IVF savings, on wedding gifts, on groceries for people who smirked while I served them. And I lost a version of myself I'll never get back. The version that wanted to belong. That woman, too, she died the moment Matthew laughed at the dinner table. But something else was born in her place. A woman who no longer begs for space. A woman who doesn't clean up messes she didn't make. A woman who stopped explaining herself. I moved. New city. New job. No big salary, but a quiet apartment with trees outside my window and neighbors who smile when we pass in the hall. I see my family again. My mom's garden. My dad's bad jokes. My little cousin's violin recitals. Simple things, but real. People ask sometimes, why didn't you go public? Why didn't I write a book? Why didn't I sue? Why didn't I expose them to the press? And I always give the same answer, because I didn't need the world to watch them fall. I just needed to know they did. And the wheelchair? It sat in storage for a while. Every time I saw it, I felt something twist in my gut, not because of what it represented, but because of what it cost me. Then one day, I donated it to a rehab center 2 towns over one that works with veterans and trauma survivors. No press, no plaque, no signature, just a printed receipt and a handwritten note I taped to the side. It read, "Give this to someone who'd rather crawl than owe the wrong people." Sometimes I still get emails. From old friends, distant cousins of Matthew's coworkers from that era. They all say the same thing. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I can't believe they did that to you. And I never write back. Because that's not the story anymore. I'm not the woman at the table. I'm not the wife with the roasted pan in the trunk. I'm not the fixer or the manager or the help. I'm just Riley. And I'm free. Would you forgive a family like this? Or walk away like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more real stories of betrayal and quiet revenge, or want to share your own, subscribe now.